Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Astro Bot. I enjoyed Astro's Playroom quite a lot. This was the pack-in title that comes downloaded with a PlayStation 5. And so I was pretty excited that this game did get its own fully fledged game because I felt like Astro's Playroom did a really good job showcasing the PlayStation 5, and I was interested to see what else they could do if they had more of a budget for a main game. The premise of this story is your giant PlayStation 5 ship gets taken by this giant cartoony alien that is in a spaceship. As far as the plot of this game, it is more of a simple idea, but the idea is this giant alien took your PlayStation 5 ship away from you and basically broke it into pieces, and then the different hardware of the PS5 gets scattered across different galaxies. And so as the Astro Bot, you're going to these different galaxies trying to recover these PlayStation 5 components. Your whole crew of all of the other Astro Bots also got lost and scattered throughout the galaxies, and so through every level there's about like 5 or 6 hidden Astro Bots that you're trying to rescue. And once you do find them, they return back to almost like your central hub planet. This is where the broken PlayStation 5 ship is, and as you rescue these bots, then they will slowly appear in this area as well. This is a very blatant PlayStation exclusive game because your ship is a PlayStation 5, your little personal ship is actually the controller, like a PlayStation 5 controller. And so as you are entering through a level, they like to really play around with the motion controls, and so you're kind of trying to steer around the obstacles as you are crash landing onto the planet. As far as controls go, it is simple, but I really like the Astro Bot's tool set here. He can punch, he can jump, he can kind of do a little glide, kind of similar to Super Mario Sunshine's Flood pack, but it's a lot shorter, and that laser that he shoots down can actually damage enemies. If you hold down his punch, then he can do a little twirl attack, which I use this a lot because it was very easy to run into all the enemies chasing you. And that's pretty much it as far as your basic controls. But there are a ton of different tools that you will get access to depending on the level, and this game really did a good job showcasing its tools and giving them each a spotlight, helping you understand their benefits, and they're just overall really fun to use. For instance, most of these you're going to be wearing on your back. There's one that's like a dog, and it allows you to kind of launch forward, and this will allow you to destroy obstacles in front of you or bounce off of these trampoline platforms. There's one that's similar to the dog, but it's like a chicken, which launches you straight upwards into the air. But they get also more creative, like the monkey arms make a return from Astro's Playroom that allows you to climb different walls. This is another one that you're going to be using the gyroscope in the PlayStation 5 to control the monkey's arms. I honestly wasn't that crazy about the motion controls in this game. There is an option to bypass those motion controls using the left controller stick, but I never really got used to that either, and so I just kind of tolerated it. Not that it was bad or anything, I just felt like the motion controls were kind of unnecessary and more unwieldy than normal controls. There's one tool that I really like that basically blows your robot up like a balloon and lets you soar up into the air, and then you can run into other little balloon items that increase your height as well. And then you can kind of deflate the air in you like a balloon. There's also another one where you basically turn into a sponge, and so when you hop into a body of water, you basically soak up all of that water, and then you turn into this giant robot that can spray the water all over different sponges and enemies. I don't know, there's just a huge variety in terms of your tools, and I felt like that was pretty much the case with all of the different levels as well. I was always excited to hop into the next level because I never knew what else was in store for me. Nothing ever really felt too played out or repetitive. So you're going to be going through these different levels, you're going to try and rescue as many of these bots as possible. There are also hidden puzzle pieces in all of the levels, and as you acquire a certain amount of puzzle pieces, that will also develop these buildings in your central hub. And as you are collecting these things, your central hub gets more and more populated with more interesting things to do. There's a good majority of these robots that are kind of like dressed up like popular video game characters. It was really fun because if there's one thing that gamers like, it's a good reference, and so I just loved seeing these bots dressed up like some of my favorite video game characters. Like, you got Parappa the Rapper and Jak and Daxter. And so I'd get really excited when I see characters that I do know, and then I feel like I have to turn in my gamer card when I encounter enemies that I have no idea what they are. They have a little blip about them, like a little nod as to what character they are, and sometimes I'd read them and I look at the character and I have absolutely no idea what game they're from. Other times it's like, oh yeah, I kind of recognize that guy. Like Ape Escape, I know what Ape Escape is. I've never played it myself, but like I recognize the spiky haired guy from Ape Escape. And so as you are rescuing these bots, they actually help you access different areas or items in this central hub planet. You'll encounter these little robots that say, hey, you need to rescue 50 of these bots in order to traverse across this chasm. And if you do have that much amount, then they kind of form together to make a bridge, almost, I don't know, kind of like Pikmin style. You're not directly controlling all of these robots, but they do like band together in order to help you reach those new areas. And so this was an additional incentive to go through and rescue as many bots as you can, because you want to access different areas. To access all of the galaxies, you are going to have to rescue a set amount. The puzzles were cool too. I liked the buildings that they opened up. Basically, they were just ways for you to customize your own robot or your controller ship that you commandeer. You also unlock like unique poses for these bots that you've rescued. This is all through the means of like a gacha machine. So it just like always feels like you're making progress, and it gives you a lot of incentive to try and go through and collect everything that you can. It was always frustrating when I'm playing through a level and I rescue a bot only to find out that I have missed 2 or 3 robots before this one. And so now I'm faced with either like restarting the level and going back and grabbing them, or just keep on pressing forward and I'll get them later. I mean, the levels aren't that long, so it's not that big of a deal to just go back and try and find the robots. Most of these robots and puzzle pieces aren't too obscure, and so you're probably going to find a majority of these collectibles as you are just playing through the game naturally, as long as you're keeping your eyes open. Some of them, I'll admit, I did need to follow a guide in order to get those last couple robots that I was missing, or puzzle pieces. Once you play through level once, you are able to spend like 200 coins in order to unlock this little tool that can kind of help you find the things that were hidden that you missed. Or you could just save the 200 coins and look up a guide. Another hidden collectible in certain levels are these galaxy portals that are like hidden in these disco balls. These were a lot more difficult to find than your run-of-the-mill puzzle pieces or bots. For most of these, admittedly, I did have to look up a walkthrough on how to find these disco balls. I mean, some of the things you had to do in order to get to them were pretty obscure. But these disco balls basically unlock a brand new level in a different galaxy. Once you play through all of the levels in a galaxy, you will encounter a boss fight, and every single one of the boss fights in this game it's absolutely wonderful. They're cinematically very exciting and engaging. Not overly difficult. I never had too much trouble with any of these bosses, but they were definitely a joy to play through. And then you unlock a quote-unquote special bot that kind of cosplays from one of Sony's main properties. And so like I mentioned Ape Escape a little bit ago, one of the first of these levels that you encounter is like an Ape Escape level where you actually control a net, and you have to go through this level trying to capture all of the apes just like you would in Ape Escape. There's other ones, I'm worried about spoiling too much, but this other one is in the trailer where you actually get the axe from God of War, and you actually turn into Kratos, and you're playing through almost like this God of War 3D platformer. I love these references, especially when it's games that I played before, and so I get to play through these type of games as a 3D platformer. The music is like almost like this electronic remix, remaster of like the original soundtracks of these games. Again, there were like a couple of these levels that I had no idea idea what game they were referencing, but still all of them were really fun to play through, and it's almost like an additional reward for having beaten the boss of that galaxy. And once you beat these levels, you do unlock the component for the PlayStation 5, and so you bring this component back to your hub base, and then you almost have to like clean them up and repair them in order before you put them back into the PlayStation 5. And this is just a fun little extra feature that really utilizes this PlayStation 5 controller, where you're using the motion controls and you're using the adaptive triggers in order to like clean up the CPUs and the fans and the RAM. And so you're like controlling these giant robot hands doing all these tasks before you push them back into the PlayStation 5. I mean, just like in Astro's Playroom, I think that this game did a really good job of utilizing the features in that PlayStation 5 controller. The speaker's really good, and the HD rumble is really good, the adaptive triggers. Like, sometimes it just has you running through a bunch of these little crystals, and you can feel all the little crystals tinkle in the rumble of the controller, and you can just hear this little tinkling noise out of the speaker. Those vibrations though, and those adaptive triggers are really loud, especially if you have the settings for the controller on the default, which is strong. They are really loud, but you can really feel them, which is fun, but if you have a partner who might be sleeping in the same bed as you, you may want to turn those off, because even on the weaker settings, those vibrations are super loud. Now, in addition to the regular levels and the bosses, you will be encountering these, almost like these little comets throughout the galaxy, and these are just additional little challenges. Sometimes they're platforming challenges with no checkpoints, other times they're like a combat scenario where you have to defeat all the enemies without getting hit. But as far as like difficulty goes, I wouldn't say that this game is necessarily difficult until you really get to those last couple levels. At least in my opinion, as a 3D platforming, I wouldn't quite say expert, but like I've had a lot of experience in the genre. Some of those last levels though can be fairly difficult, especially like one of the very last levels. You have to go through this whole gauntlet without dying once because there's no checkpoints. Usually this game is fairly generous with its checkpoints. I feel like every single platforming challenge you overcome is met with a checkpoint besides these last couple levels. And once you do beat the game, or at least roll the credits, it does unlock this additional galaxy where it has like, I think maybe 5 or 6 of these really long stretches of levels with absolutely no checkpoints, which can be fairly challenging. It also unlocks this like speed running galaxy where there's about 7 or 8 of these levels where you have to get to the very end as fast as you can utilizing a tool. So these were fun additional challenges, but I never really felt too frustrated with this game, except that one last level where it's just huge gauntlet. It kind of reminded me of like, I think it was called The Darker Side of the Moon on Super Mario Odyssey. But even though I feel like this game was relatively easy, it was not boring at all. This is a game of pure delight and joy. I always had a smile on my face when I was playing through this game. Just the world building is so lively, and pretty much every single object has these robot eyes, and everything is so expressive, and you can interact with everything, and the levels are just covered in these cute little robot animals that you can interact with, and you can see like little robot penguins building snowmen, or robot flowers waving in the wind. The music is so upbeat and fun, the colors are expressive and bright, the showcases are just so unique. Like, I'm thinking of one particular level where you go to a casino, and then you basically like encounter these giant curtains, and then when the curtains open up, this giant casino 3D platforming level is exposed to you, and it's all colorful and the music is going. I just can't think of any moment playing through this game that I was bored. I was always just so excited to see what was next for me, what was in store for me, what can I possibly experience next that would top this level. And it seems like each level is better than the last. Whenever I do play games for casual reviews, I always try to record interesting scenes or segments or parts that I think would be funny, and I felt like I was just constantly recording these clips from this game because there's like so many interesting visuals and scenes that I just want to showcase. Even the credit sequence is one of the happiest, most enjoyable credit sequences that I've played through. Like, I feel like the first interactive credit sequence that I can think of is Super Smash Bros. Melee, where you're trying to shoot all the credits, and then other ones have done this as well, like the credit, you can destroy the credits as they fall down, but this actually felt like such a reward and a treat for beating the game. One of my favorite levels, though, was one that was introduced after the game came out as free DLC, I believe, and it's like this joyful Christmas level that is just so wonderful, and you get to utilize like all of the different tools that are in the game, and you're unlocking all these fun robots like Spider-Man, and you have this big happy Christmas tree right in the middle of the stage. I'm just struggling to think of anybody who would possibly dislike this game. Unless you absolutely hate pure joy, I think that you will get something out of this game, even if you're not a big gamer. I think it is accessible enough that anybody could play it, and I couldn't see myself not recommending this to anybody. It took me about 14 hours to 100% complete the game. I did follow a walkthrough for a couple of those last hidden bots, but it is a shorter game, but I think this is one of the prime examples that game length doesn't equal game quality. I would absolutely pay full price for this game, and I definitely see myself returning to this game to replay through it pretty soon. Obviously, I'm going to give this game a 5 out of 5. There's a reason it won all of these game awards last year. Well, guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Astro Bot, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!